Tomorrow. A Pinocchio fanfiction written by Jukebox Straws. Read by Jukebox Straws. Chapter 2. Old Friends and New Enemies. "Gideon, we have to go!" John burst into the small room, sweat dripping from the tip of his black nose. He startled Gideon, who was flipping to the next page in the book he was reading. Gideon had a whole collection of books stashed under the bed, mostly children's books since he never learned to read past that level, and neither had John, for that matter. Gideon quickly got up and began to follow John without question, seeing the panic in his eyes. If John was worried, that meant something went very, very wrong with his latest meeting with the coachman. "I can't do it anymore, Giddy, I just can't." John stuffed as many clothes as he could into a single suitcase. "We're going to find a place to hide out tonight, and then take the first train out of Italy in the morning." Gideon pulled the box out from under the bed and opened it. He let out a pathetic sigh at the few coins inside that were their life savings. "Just enough for 2 tickets to anywhere but here." John grabbed the change and shoved it into the suitcase as well, along with a few of Gideon's favorite books, before he jammed it shut. Doing a quick once-over of the apartment that they would soon have to abandon, John pulled open his sock drawer and took out a small, ornate golden locket. The one thing he would never pawn for money, no matter how desperate or hungry he and Gideon were. He slipped it around his neck and tucked it under his cravat as Gideon waited by the door. Then they ran, suitcase in hand, searching for any house or business that would be willing to harbor them just for the night. "Foul fellow!" came the coachman's roar. John felt his fur stand on end, feeling more like a frightened cat than a fox. Gideon clung to his cape in an attempt not to fall behind. Then John saw it. A light. Someone was still awake at this ungodly hour of the night. Praise the powers of whoever was that crazy. John banged on the door, praying that it wasn't some passed-out drunkard who forgot to douse his candle. The door opened. "You." Soft blue eyes hardened upon seeing the fox and the cat. "Pinocchio!" John looked the boy up and down. He looked different. His nose wasn't as prominent, his limbs less rectangular, his hands no longer gloved, his joints no longer squeaky. "Pinocchio, thank God!" John was thankful to see a familiar face, albeit a bit different than the last time they'd met. "Who is it, Pinocchio?" Another voice came from inside the house. Pinocchio turned his head to peer inside, then back out at John. "It's nobody, father." The boy went to close the door, but John's hands were faster. One on the door, the other on the frame, prying it back open. "Pinocchio, listen, we need your help. Why would I ever help you? I'm lucky to still be here after what you did." Pinocchio frowned, his eyes looking more disappointed than angry. Somehow, John thought, it felt worse. "I know. I don't expect forgiveness." John swallowed his pride, especially now that he could hear the whinnies of the team of horses approaching rapidly. "But please, we need somewhere to stay, just for tonight, then we'll be on the first train out of town and you'll never see us again. Promise, honest, this time." "That's what you said last time. Honest, John." Pinocchio spit the word honest out like bile, and John cringed at the nickname. "You can watch us all night. We have nothing to hide." John was getting more and more desperate as the clattering of hooves got closer. Gideon hid himself under the fox's cape, staring up at Pinocchio with pleading eyes as John dropped to his knees. Pinocchio stared in disbelief as John clashed his hands together in front of him. "Pinocchio, I am begging you, please." A moment of silence, punctuated by the neigh of a horse. "Fine." Pinocchio moved out of the way and opened the door to let them inside. John grinned as he hefted Gideon and himself through the door and slammed it shut. Holding his breath, he waited for the coachman to pass them by. He only let his breath out again once the clatter of hooves and the squeaking of metal wheels faded into the distance. "Pinocchio? Who are they?" John's eyes snapped open and he realized that there was an old man sitting a few paces away at a workbench. This was a woodcarver's shop. Clocks and music boxes littered the walls, toys scattered across the floor. The fireplace still burned bright, a warm welcome from the chilly night air. "Father, this is John and Gideon." Pinocchio joined his father, pressing into his side. "They just needed a place to stay for the night." "Yes, we are eternally grateful." John tried to be polite, taking off his hat and nodding. "We'll be gone first thing in the morning." Something singed his foot, and John yelped. He looked down and saw that blasted cricket trying to set him on fire with a hot coal. "Jiminy!" Pinocchio dove in and scooped the cricket into his hands. "You've got a lot of nerve showing up here asking Pinocchio for help." Jiminy's tiny body radiated rage as he smacked the coal away with the handle of his umbrella. "Yes, I understand. And my dear boy, you deserve an explanation for all of it." John sighed and sat on a stool. Gideon sat on the floor beside him. Pinocchio and his father settled on the sofa, Jiminy pacing the table between them. "I knew what Pleasure Island would do to you because it happened to me," John explained. "I was a foolish child, just like you. I wanted the easy road to success. I found it through pickpocketing and tricking people, until one day I crossed the wrong man." "Is that who's looking for you right now?" Pinocchio asked. John nodded. "He has no name, just goes by the Coachman, and he runs Pleasure Island. I was in your position about 20 years ago, except apparently I was a special case. I turned into a fox instead of a donkey like the rest of the boys, so the Coachman cut me a deal, said that if I worked for him for long enough, he would eventually transform me and Gideon back, and we could live as free men." "Something tells me the Coachman didn't make good on his promise." Jiminy crossed his arms. "Obviously not." John gestured to his entirety, still fox. "Turns out there is no cure, and the Coachman never planned to let us go, so we decided to do it ourselves." "Still," Pinocchio interrupted him, "you still made that choice. You made the choice to swindle and steal and lie and cheat." "I did." For the first time, John's ears moved. They went down like a shameful puppy. "And I will spend the rest of my days atoning for what I've done. I promise you that, Pinocchio. And I cannot tell you how sorry I am that I've inflicted such pain on you. I try to avoid Pleasure Island as much as I can, but saying no to the Coachman is obviously a very delicate matter." Pinocchio and the old man, who John learned was named Geppetto, gave John and Gideon some blankets and a few spare pillows to sleep on. But John couldn't sleep. The clocks on the walls ticked slowly, counting the seconds. But every second the Coachman didn't storm through the door was just another second John worried he would in the next. The glow of the wishing star blinked right outside the window, and John was on his knees. "I cannot believe I'm doing this," he mumbled. At least nobody was around to make fun of him. This would be his little secret. "Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might, have the wish I wish tonight." John didn't know whether or not he was supposed to say the wish out loud. He'd read somewhere that if you spoke a birthday wish out loud, it wouldn't come true. Whether or not the same applied to stars, he didn't know. He was so engrossed in his own overthinking that the glow of the blue fairy appearing right in front of him didn't even register until she cleared her throat. "Hello, John." The fairy smiled warmly, as if she wasn't looking into the uncanny eyes of a convicted criminal. John looked up from his spot on the floor, still draped in blankets with a pillow beside him. "Hello, ma'am." He tried his hardest not to stutter. The blue fairy. He had heard of her, but he thought it was only a myth, something parents told their children to keep them from misbehaving. But here she stood in front of him now, sparkling dress touching the floor, wings shimmering in the moonlight, and her soft features tightened in disappointment. "I sense you've had a change of heart." "More like I've just had enough," John mumbled as he stood. Even at his full height, he was still shorter than her. "Either way, it has come to my attention that you wish to change, and I want to help you grant that wish." "Really?" John raised a brow. He was so used to everything being a scam or someone having ulterior motives. Even a fairy descending from the heavens raised his hackles. There had to be some kind of catch. "Yes, really." She held her wand in her hand. "But I can only take you part of the way. You must prove yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish, and I will be able to reverse what's been done to you." John chanced to glance back at Gideon sleeping soundly on a pile of blankets nearby. "And yes, I will change both of you back," she added, knowing John worried for his feline companion. "Brave, truthful, and unselfish, huh? Sounds easy enough." He rubbed his chin. The hypocrisy of that statement hadn't quite weighed on him yet. "It'll be more difficult than you think. An adult is more resistant to change than a child, like Pinocchio." The fairy gestured to Pinocchio sleeping beside his father in their large bed, his hand gently resting over Figaro, who slept curled up on the pillow. John's face softened, seeing the little boy curled up with his father and his cat, safe at home. Something filled him. Jealousy, maybe sadness, longing for the family he never got to enjoy. "I'm Honest John, I can do anything." He crossed his arms, still not making eye contact with the fairy. "If you believe you can do it, then I have every confidence in you." She smiled as she faded away, shimmering back up to the sky to rejoin the stars she descended from. John questioned whether or not she was an angel as he flopped onto the sofa, suddenly very tired. To be continued in Chapter 3.